Charles Stille, and this is an interview with my friend Chris Johnson for Gero22 Death and Dying. We're going to get Christopher's thoughts on a lot of interesting topics tonight.
It's true.
All right, so we'll start off with the obvious. So what was your first experience with death?
My first experience with death when I was 11 years old, within a 5-month time span in 1999, my paternal great-grandmother died and my maternal great-grandfather died. My paternal great-grandmother, I didn't really know her all that well, so she died, I think my grandmother told me as I was getting out of the tub. It was like not a big deal, like, oh yeah, by the way, your grandma Frances died. Okay. And so it wasn't a big deal with me. And then when my grandmother's father died, my maternal great-grandfather, Bob, I knew him a little bit, so it was kind of sad. And I remember going, he had an open casket wake, the whole deal, so that was the first time I ever saw a dead body or anything. And it was kind of disheartening, but I knew, like, I wanted to cry, but I really didn't, because, again, I didn't know him all that well. I knew it was supposed to be sad, but it just, again, to me, not that big a deal, you know. So that was my first experience with death. Was like, oh well, it was pretty unceremonious.
Yeah, just thrown at you. That seems to be, that's kind of leads into the next question. So how does your family really approach the subject of death? Because at this point, it seems like they're just like, someone died.
It's not that cold. When someone close to us dies, I mean, it just depends. I mean, when my grandmother died, my mom didn't go to pieces because my mom wasn't as close with my grandmother as she was with her father. So she just kind of snapped into, we got to get it done. We got to get this figured out. We got to call other relatives. So she didn't really go to pieces all too much. When my grandfather passed away most recently in October, she fell apart because she was close to him, and also was the last parent, so she was just, you know, out of her mind with grief. But for the most part, my family, it's like, I mean, you walk around a corner and go, this person's dead. Okay, how do you want to handle that? I don't know. It's really unceremonious, like I said. It's very cut and dry with us. It's, well, they're dead. You can cry if you want to, but up to you.
It's like you read my mind. So the next question I was going to ask, so what's the typical grieving process for your family besides, well,
drinking? Yeah, I mean, well, again, when my grandfather just died, I walked into the living room at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. My mom was already, I don't know how many champagnes deep, because she just had to steady herself. So yeah, it's very, I hate to be stereotypical Irish American, but, you know, we do drink quite heavily when people die. So yeah, it's either drinking or crying or both, or yeah, mostly.
Okay, so the next question, how do you yourself handle the grieving process typically?
I swear to God that wasn't planned. Generally, well, again, when my grandfather just passed away in October, I wanted to cry, but I couldn't be sad for a life well lived. See, I'll give you a little background. So my grandmother and grandfather both lived equally terrible lives, but my grandfather took his terrible life and turned it into an anecdote. He made fun of his life. He joked about it. He told us about every white-knuckled, hair-raising experience, and he made it funny. My grandmother was the type of person that took her life and bit into it like a raw lemon. You know, just was just tragic and horrible and all that stuff. So, I mean, I cried for her life because her life was awful and she just leaned into the grief that her life was. But with my grandfather, couldn't be sad. I was like, you know what? He lived a good 83 years. It's fine by me. You know, I couldn't be sad for him. I mean, of course I miss him, but I don't know. I think it's a lot of, with the tribulations that come in your own life, you get more jaded as the years go on. So when death comes around the corner, you're like, oh, that's just another bump in the road. You kind of become, you know, impervious to death almost.
Yeah, yeah, that's the benefits of big families sometimes too. So what are your thoughts about an afterlife? Do you think that just goes dark? Do you believe there's a heaven? Are we all damned?
Well, the way I was raised was to believe that there was an afterlife. That, you know, if you're good, you go to heaven. If you're bad, you go to hell. And even if you're good, you probably go to hell. But as of right now, I don't believe there's any golden ring at the end of the ride. I'd like to, but I just can't fathom that that would be realistic. I mean, does a snail go to heaven? Does a lizard go to heaven? Cat didn't go to heaven. Okay, it's just I personally believe that it's just lights out, and I hope I'm wrong, but because even if I'm wrong, I win.
Right. I was gonna say that's the good thing about believing in nothing.
Even if I'm wrong, I win. But yeah, as of right now, no, I don't believe there's any afterlife. You know.
All right. So with that being said, what are your thoughts about suicide?
In what context?
Just someone's tired of it and decides to just off themselves, or just.
If nothing else, you own your own meat. You know, you are your own person. If you want to end your life, go for it. If you're tired of suffering, I mean, I wish my grandmother would have had the testicular fortitude to eat that whole bottle of morphine, but she didn't. But if I was in her shoes with stage 4 lung cancer, I would have. You know, that's just me, though. If you are sick and tired, go for it. I mean, but if you still got a life worth living left, maybe seek counseling before you put the barrel of the gun in your mouth or eat a bottle of pills or do whatever. You know, but if you're suffering medically, cancer, whatever, you got problems, just it's all right in my book. I have no problem with it, especially if you don't believe in an afterlife. What the hell's the problem?
True. Which puts the cart before the horse on my next question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Do you feel that people should have total body autonomy? Like euthanasia, do you think that should be a viable option for people?
Absolutely. You should be able to take your own life if you feel like it.
Even medically assisted, like say.
Yeah, medically assisted suicide, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So, do you think, being said with your grandma having cancer, do you think that there's a lot of peer pressure for people to get treatment?
Do you mean like chemotherapy and things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, she actually denied that. She actually decided to go out just naturally. She didn't want chemo. She didn't want to extend her life. They gave her 6 months or something like that, and she died 6 months to the day. So I mean, I do think there's a lot of from medical professionals to just keep them going and keep the medication. You know, let me phrase this differently. There's a lot of money in medicine. There's no money in a cure. So I think there's a lot of doctors that push the medication as opposed to.
It seems like she had one who was willing to just go, "Hey, this is what's going on.
These are your options." Yeah. So
good. She was presented with options at least.
But yeah, I do think there's a lot of pressure to keep you alive, even if it's a life not worth living.
Have you ever had to experience any type of traumatic death firsthand, like any kind of like suicides or unexpected death?
Fortunately, no. Luckily for me, no one in my family. I mean, I know there are people who did commit suicide, but it was before I was born. So, but no, I haven't had to experience that. I'm very lucky in that regard.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is a good one to knock.
I mean, my grandfather's was unexpected, but the way my brother made it sound when he visited him, it didn't make it sound like it was so great. So it was expectedly unexpected.
Yeah. All right, so what would you do if you were put in the position of saying, doctor comes up, says, hey, you're terminal with whatever illness it may be, or organ failure, you have 6 months to live. Would you choose to have treatment in the hopes of like extending your life, even though you know that you're kind of in the final stretch, or?
No, I would choose to die. There's no point in living 6 months or whatever in agony. And if you could just, you know, maybe extend your life a couple weeks, go have fun, do whatever you want, and then night. Yeah. You know, there's no point. And I mean, I say that now, of course, when I'm faced with that,
Yeah,
conundrum in the future, I may respond differently, especially if
say.
medicine is advanced or where they can replace my liver and lungs and all that kind of stuff. But as of right now, if they told me I was terminal, I'm like, no, just get it over with.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm like, that's kind of a weird position to be put in anyways. Like,
Because it seems to me as soon as people find out they're terminal, that's when it starts to decline.
yeah, I think it's more of a mood.
It's a
Like,
mood, yeah. The depression sets in, and you're like, oh my god, I can die. And then you either do one of two things: you try to fight it and die anyway, or give up and die.
well,
The outcome's the same either way.
You could always shoot
I
for
ha-
that middle ground.
I hate when people go, he's such a fighter, he'll make it, he's gonna fucking die. It's the end of the, I mean, as much as you want to believe that how tough a person is, my grandfather was the toughest one in the end, so it doesn't really matter.
This is true. All right, well.
Sorry if my language offends any of you, but you're in college and you should grow up.
All right, well, sir, I think we've about handled all of the questions.
Oh?
You can go off the cuff now.
Is this over?
No, not necessarily.